Now, listen, Harold, are you there? You're going to talk about embezzlers. First of all, what's an embezzler?
Well, an embezzler is someone that inappropriately takes some money. But I just, clearing that up, but for Morsel, my name's Harold Peacock, not all those other things that Danny tends to add on. Harold Peacock Morsel, look forward to you listening for a very long time.
And you can go to historyouthere.com to find out his website. But tell us about these embezzlers.
Yeah, look, I'll start way back in 1888 when there was a big embezzlement in which a William Gregson was charged with having embezzled money with cheques totalling more than £1,000, which is almost $1 million in today's money. And the biggest cheques were passed right here in Ipswich.
Right.
Now, Gregson pleaded guilty and was sentenced to 18 months imprisonment with hard labour. But what was really interesting was his wife, Margaret Gregson, who was otherwise known as the Duchess of Montague Road.
Right.
Now, her establishments were very popular for their bawdy behaviour, sly grog, and ladies of the night.
Oh.
You see, she ran the biggest chain of disorderly houses in Queensland.
Wow.
And when she passed away in 1926, her estate was valued at £25,000 or $8.5 million today.
Wow.
So the business paid off. And then in 1895, there was another interesting Ipswich embezzlement when Edward Whiffen was brought up on a charge of embezzling from his own business of Livermore and Whiffen.
Yes.
Now, at Ipswich Grammar School, Whiffen had been a schoolmate of the Chief Justice of Queensland, James Blair, and the renowned engineer John Bradfield, who, of course, built the Sydney Harbour Bridge and Brisbane Story Bridge.
Brisbane Story Bridge, which they reckon needs work on it.
All bridges do, constantly. I know a very good engineer who listens to our show. Good morning, Rob. He looks after all the Brisbane bridges, including Story Bridge.
Good on you, Rob.
Anyway, getting back to Whiffen, he was found not guilty and discharged. But after the business split, his former business partner flourished. His name was William George Livermore, who, of course, founded the big Ipswich lemonade manufacturers of W.G. Livermore that had a factory right in Ipswich, in East Street. Now, then there was in 1900, there was a sensation when the Ipswich Town Council voted to have their own rate collector charged by the police.
Bludger.
Yeah, it was Hugh Campbell. He was charged with embezzling the rates that he had collected. Now, the amounts varied because different auditors couldn't get it right, but it appeared to be around £619 or over $600,000 a day. Campbell was convicted and sentenced to 18 months hard labour, but it was suspended under the First Offenders Act and on the proviso that he repay the money. Now, what's interesting is that Campbell was a member of one of the very original Ipswich families because his father had been the first free settler to arrive here in 1842.
Well, I'd be a Canadian side valver.
Yeah, that's right. Now, the Canadians in 1905, they'd be interested because there was an interesting embezzlement involving Ernest James William Caldecott. Now, he was formerly the town clerk's office clerk. Now, he was charged with misappropriating from the Silverwood Dairy the sum of about £16.
Wow.
Now, the jury found Caldecott guilty but they recommended leniency because of the great temptation that he faced in a relatively small amount. But it was discovered that 4 years earlier, Caldecott had been a Church of England lay preacher in Ballarat in Victoria and had embezzled £20 from the church and cleared out.
Oh, typical Victorian.
Yeah, I know. Look, the Ipswich judge showed no mercy and Caldecott was sentenced to 3 years imprisonment.
What, for that amount of money? You're kidding me.
That's right, and compare that to
other people we know, if you know what I'm saying.
Well, other people from 1900, he got off, really. He just had to repay the money. But look, anyway, in 1907, that was Ipswich's highest profile embezzlement, certainly up to that date.
Wow.
It was James McGill who was charged with embezzling £89 or thereabouts from the Queensland. Yeah, it's a fair bit, but it was from the Queensland Pastoralist and Agricultural Society. You see, McGill had been the secretary of the show society. He was a representative of the Brisbane Courier newspaper, treasurer to the Methodist Church, secretary of the Chamber of Commerce, government auditor to several councillors, a lay preacher of the Wesleyan Church, a justice of the peace, and in 1891, James McGill had been the mayor of Ipswich. Yeah, I know. It's terrible, isn't it? So the mayor was found guilty and sentenced to 18 months imprisonment. So even though there was huge interest, of course, in the embezzling mayor, people also continued to lap up news of the Ballarat lay preacher, Ipswich rates collector, Chief Justice's schoolmate, and the husband of the biggest brothel madam in the colony. So, Danny, it seems for 150 years there's always been embezzling going on somewhere in Ipswich, but I stress it was back then, 100 years ago.
Well, mate, another great story from Harold Peacock, historyouthere.com. And Harold, we were talking earlier this morning, and I want you to start practicing. You know how they're getting sports, they're putting sports anywhere into the Olympics now. We thought for Brisbane we could get the Ipswich team. Oyster shucking, mullet fondling and mullet filleting could be part of the next new sports brought into the Olympic Games.
They all sound intriguing.
You're in or what? You're in?
I'm in.
Right.
I'm a mullet man from way back, so let's do it.
Now go to historyouthere.com. You'll find out about this story and all the other stories in the History Power Hour here at 8:20.